Hello there guys, RMP792 here. Discovery episode 12. Oh my god, this show. Right, I'm about willing to call it. This show is over-reliant on its twists, and that's a big problem because they're all badly telegraphed to the point where every single one of the major oh my god twists we saw coming ages ago. The one exception being the death of Culver a couple of episodes ago, because that was just sudden, couldn't have seen it coming shock moment value. So, yeah, right. Let's talk about this episode in probably not really chronological order. I'll probably do what I usually do and go roughly sort of story by story. So, the last episode pretty much ended with Stamets, or one of the last things that happened in the last one was Stamets' brain got chatting to his mirror universe counterpart. So we pick up that story, and there's some fun interaction here. You know, again, I'll freely admit, while this show has a lot of problems, and I mean a lot of problems, the acting isn't one of those problems. They've assembled a shockingly good cast for this show. And for the most part, everybody is doing an amazing job. They're working with not terribly good writing and, frankly, irritating story. But the acting itself is really, really good. You know, so Anthony Rapp acting across from himself, you know, with Stamets and Mirror Universe Stamets, is actually a really fun scene, you know, where it's am I dead? You know, is this the afterlife? You know, and his mirror universe counterpart is, yes, you're dead, and there is a god, and she's very angry with you. So, you know, that's a cute little scene and a cute little interaction. So then they sort of drop out of the CGI heavy mycelial network thing and into, well, the sets that they have, because yeah, this show does have a budget, I'm assuming. You know, it's still a very pretty show, but yeah, you know, you got to save money where you can, and they do keep spending it on things that you don't really need to spend money on. But yeah, so you know that they go into a sort of replica of the Discovery because the mycelial network's trying to make him feel more at home, and they toddle back and forth for a bit, and everything's pretty much what you would expect. And he reveals that the mycelial network is being corrupted in some way, and you know Mirror Stamets has been stuck there for quite some time, and it's starting to sort of absorb him. You know, he's you know, whereas our Stamets has got, you know, those cybernetic implants in his arms, Mirror Stamets is starting to acquire this sort of weird, you know, spore sheen on him, which is suitably creepy, and they get distracted by he starts seeing visions of Culver. And, you know, so Stamets runs away from Mirror Stamets and finds Culver. And Culver's attitude is basically, yeah, I'm dead, you're hallucinating me. Definitely dead. Not coming back in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, this is still bury your gaze. This is really very much bury your gaze. And all the talk of, oh, you know, don't worry, he's going to come back and then it's going to be, you know, you're going to be really happy. Still kind of annoyed about this, because again, that death was only there for shock value, and this scene was really well acted. Still annoyed. As I said, the problem is that they, you know, I'm afraid I don't know the name of the actor who plays Culver. I could look it up, but I can't be bothered. But no, he and Anthony Rapp have really great chemistry, I've got to say, and they are very believable as a couple. And the fact that they've taken that and just, you know, hoiked it is just frustrating. And you know, and the scene where, you know, he's basically sort of thinking, this was always my favourite part, you know, with them just, you know, brushing their teeth together and just talking about how their days were and all that kind of stuff. It's really sweet and really endearing and just reminds you that, yeah, you're not going to see this again because he's dead. Insult, injury, salt, wound, etc., etc. But yeah. So, that storyline is fine, and you've got Tilly still sort of dosing him in spores, and then Ghost Culver, or whatever we're going to call him, basically tells him all you really need to do to get out of here is open your eyes. You're still on the Discovery. And the thing is, the way it's edited, we see, Culver, not Culver, we see Stamets, and he wakes up, and we're immediately looking at Mirror Stamets, who gets up and is like, "Yes, I'm out," and seems quite happy. And then our Stamets wakes up on board the Discovery and then goes and does, and looks and sees that their forest is dying, which is apparently the result of something Mirror Stamets has done. The thing is, that was either really badly edited, or the Stametses have got swapped around. As in, Mirror Stamets has woken up in Prime Stamets' body, and Prime Stamets has woken up in Mirror Stamets' body. Because that was the implication I took from the way that had been edited together. Now, that could just be janky editing, or that's what happened. I'm genuinely not certain. I really, really can't tell at all. So, we will see. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're doing, because that might be an explanation of how the hell they're going to get out of the problems that are going on in the A plot. So yeah, meanwhile, we've also got dealing with the Tyler situation, i.e. he's going completely bonkers because he's got two personalities, warring it out. And, Saru's basic comment is he goes to L'Rell in the brig and says, he's in pain. What can you do to fix this? And her attitude is, he's a Klingon warrior. He was ready to accept pain. So they go away. And then he comes back and he's like he broke out of his restraints and did this. And he just holds up a thing where he's clearly been, clawing at his own flesh trying to pull it off, which is a bit dark. Again, this show loves to indulge in, we can go there now storytelling. They, throwing in the swearing earlier and the overly gory violence on occasion, and it still just does not feel like Star Trek. And that's coming from a guy who actually really quite likes the episode from season 1 of TNG, where you've got Starfleet being infiltrated by the bugs, and you've got that quite unnecessarily graphic scene of them blowing the guy's head up with their phasers. But that's at least partially because the effects have aged in such a way that scene's gone from gory and graphic to just funny. But yeah, so eventually Saru's solution is to basically beam Tyler into the cell with L'Rell. Once again, there were no site-to-site transporters during this time period, but I've given up pointing out all the technical continuity. But yes, so he beams Tyler into the cell, and she eventually agrees to help them in some way. Which apparently means putting on some weird glove things that they just happen to have, and then electrocuting his brain. And I have no idea what that has done. My assumption is that she'd be burning out the Tyler personality to get rid of it, because they do actually reveal how they were able to turn him into such a convincing fake human, in that they actually took Lieutenant Ash Tyler, who was who they took as a prisoner at the Battle of the Binary Stars, and they copied his mind and they took his DNA and all sorts of other stuff and they implanted it. Now, that makes a certain amount of sense insofar as how he was able to pass Lorca's scrutiny where Lorca investigated his past. So, okay, that makes a certain amount of sense. It's basically a real human personality that's been grafted over, Vox personality. So, the science is still cobblers, but at least it now makes a bit more sense and logic. So, it's still ridiculous pseudoscience, but I'm willing to go with it for the sake of the story. Just a bit of the story wasn't better told. So yes, and she jams her things into his head, and I have no idea what that's supposed to have done, but she then does the Klingon death howl, which implies to me she might have burned out the Vok part of his brain. So she then does the Klingon death howl, because the whole point of that howl is to tell the to warn the afterlife that a great warrior is coming. And so if she was doing that for Tyler, that would be weird. So, again, this episode, does a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of unclear what's actually going on. So I'm genuinely not sure which of them's going to come at, whether it's going to be Tyler or Vok, or whether it's going to be some weird combination of the two. I don't know. The episode does not explain it well. But anyway, that's the B plot, or the C plot, or the whatever the plot. And we now let's talk about the main plot of this episode. So we found out at the end of the last one that the Empress is Philippa Georgiou, which we all saw coming. Sadly, no mention of Emperor Hoshi Sato, which I'm mildly miffed about, but oh well. So, so Michael brings Lorca along and to the Doom Fortress, and it's pretty clear that they've built this Doom Fortress to prevent anybody doing what Hoshi did, i.e. turning up with a big powerful starship and saying, hand over the keys to the Empire or start blowing stuff up. If it's a Doom Fortress, it can presumably move, and it seems to have some sort of... At first, it looked almost like it was built along similar principles to a Dyson sphere, but it's nowhere near that large, so that's obviously some sort of artificial sun that they're using for power. It's weird. Again, explain your stuff, Discovery. Don't just put it there because it looks cool. This is Star Trek. All I need is an offhand line, where they look impressed and they go, "Oh my word, they've harnessed blah 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 blah." That will be fine. It's one line of dialogue. Hell, maybe even set it up for later, because that's almost certainly going to explode or something like that. Just say that power source is ruinously unstable. Everyone knows that. So incidentally, if it ends up exploding in like an episode or two, I called it. That's kind of the problem with this show. Actually, I can call all the twists before they turn up. So they go in and they present themselves to the Empress, and they go through the usual rigmarole. And Georgiou beats up Lorca with a mace. Given the size of that thing, assuming it's made from some sort of metal, which it looked to be, his jaw would be just gone. But that was pretty funny. And then she asks Michael to pick a Kelpian, and she's like, that one. And that pays off later in the dinner scene when you realise that they're eating the Kelpian. Okay. I saw some debate online whether this is cannibalism or not, and my attitude is it's not cannibalism, because cannibalism is eating your own species. But in much the same way that it's not bestiality if you sleep with a sentient, sapient alien who's completely up for it, we need new words. We really do. Given the prevalence in science fiction, we need a word for eating a sapient species, which is very, 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 very wrong. And we need a word for sleeping with an alien species that isn't bestiality. Because I actually got into this debate at the HSD Christmas meal with one of my friends, where we were arguing whether or not it's bestiality to have sex with a Wookiee. Her point is he's not human, so therefore it is. My point is he's sapient and sentient, and so therefore it's not. We need a new word. But anyway, so they're eating Kelpian. And again, the acting in this scene is really, really good. Michael does a very good job of I can't remember the actress's name. It's something or other Green, isn't it? I've only ever seen it written down, so I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it. But anyway, she does a really good job of I'm utterly horrified at what I'm eating, but I'm not allowed to stop or I'll die. And it's subtle, but it's good. The cast of the show really is very, very good. But, oh god, the writing. And then she's like, here, have this gland. My treat. And then they get into the whole, you constantly betrayed me, and, yada, yada, yada. And she's going to execute her. And she clearly, in this universe, she actually adopted her as a daughter, rather than just the sort of surrogate mother-daughter relationship they had. as captain and first officer in the Prime Universe. So there's, she's going to give her the mercy of a quick death, and then she basically explains, actually, I'm not from your universe. Here, I have proof. And Giorgio immediately recognises it as being from the United Federation of Planets, so she kills basically everybody there except one guy, presumably the one who she thinks is scared of her the most, who's probably even more scared of her now she's just killed a whole room full of guys. Side note, I did actually quite like the thing that she used to take them all out, though the only problem is I watched Wanted relatively recently, and it just reminded me of the bit at the end where Angelina Jolie just curves the bullet around the entire room and just takes out everybody. Yes, so kills a bunch of dudes, and clearly, all knowledge of the Federation has been suppressed, obviously. As she said, this dangerous ideals, can't let these get out. To be fair, she's right. The ideology of the Federation does spread into the Mirror Universe through Mirror Universe Spock, and that does actually lead to the complete downfall of the Terran Empire and humanity getting conquered as slaves by the Klingons and the Cardassians. So, whoopsie diddles there. But so but yeah, that's all well and good. So she basically, says, "All right, I'll maybe I'll do a thing, maybe I won't. I'm not sure I trust you or not." And we go back and forth on who trusts who, and so on and so forth. And there's some creepy stuff. But meanwhile, we've got Lorca getting tortured down below. He's been given a sort of nerve inhibitor or something like that that's going to reduce the effects of the agony booth. But some guy comes in who's who wants recompense for something that Lorca did to his sister, whatever that was, or Mirror Universe Lorca did to his sister, and he brings in a guy who Lorca knew, and he's like, I have this DNA from the such and such. It doesn't interact well with human beings, and I'm like, it's DNA, dude. I mean, even if you just inject DNA into somebody, there's a limit to what it'll do. But no, it makes him explode. Very graphically. Why? Here's the thing. Up until now, or up until this show, one of the most sort of graphic, unpleasant deaths we saw on Star Trek was in the Enterprise episode Cold Front. What was it? It was the three-parter where No, it wasn't Cold Front, was it? That's one of the early ones now. It was the Enterprise three-parter with the Augments, basically. Cold Station 12. That was it. But yes, and in order to basically get a guy to talk, one of the augments shoves another dude into a chamber full of, where they can literally just introduce all sorts of horrific plagues, because that's the point of this station. It's meant to study these plagues and find a way to, to cure them or at least prevent against them. And it's medical research. The CDC has facilities like this. You kind of need them. But, and he sticks him in a tube that they have for some reason, and, douses him with some sort of hideous plague, and that guy dies very, very unpleasantly. Up until now, that's one of the most graphic, unpleasant deaths in Star Trek, and that was pushing the envelope. This has basically gone, ha, envelope, and just thrown it away. Because, again, they're going for shock. They're trying to prove that, we're not your father's Star Trek. To which my response was, yeah, but I like my father's Star Trek. I want more of that. You dumbasses. A bit more long-form storytelling? Yeah, that I'm fine with. But the whole message of Star Trek is, when humans stand together and look towards the future, we can accomplish amazing things. And it looks at deep philosophical issues, and this is just not doing that at all. It's a perfectly fine sci-fi series, but it's not even slightly Star Trek. But, so Lorca obviously can't answer because, he doesn't know who this guy's sister is. But eventually, he sort of keels over, pretending to be dying, and the guy stupidly opens the agonizer booth. And, at this point, Lorca, electrocutes him with his own defibrillator panels, which I don't think they were using defibrillator panels in TOS. Certainly by TNG era, they've got, little things that sort of do something similar. But I have no idea if they were still using full-on paddles in the TOS era, because I don't think we ever saw them, because Bones never tried to resuscitate anybody. He's dead, Jim. Are you sure, Bones? It was only like 10 seconds ago. Maybe you can help him. No, definitely dead, Jim. But and that's when we get the big twist reveal of the episode. Empress Giorgio is susceptible to bright light. And this is a common thing amongst all people in the mirror universe. This has been pulled directly out of the writer's rectum. This has never been a thing before. The lighting on the Enterprise, the ISS Enterprise and TOS was normal. Nobody who's crossed over into our universe before now has had any kind of a problem with light. This has been pulled straight out of the writer's anus. And that's the point at which you realise, oh my god, Lorca is the Lorca from the parallel universe. To which my response is, guys, we thought you were going to do this. We also gave you the credit to assume you wouldn't, because it's a bad idea. Granted, it explains why he's such an asshole. Because, we have been saying all season he doesn't act like a Starfleet captain, and the answer to that is he's not a Starfleet captain. So, thinking about it, I figured it out this morning. He obviously took over from Prime Universe Lorca when the Baran exploded. My guess is Prime Universe Lorca went up with his ship, and Mirror Universe Lorca swapped in at that point, pretended he'd damaged his eyes when he looked at the explosion of the Baran, and just took over his life, which might explain why the Admiral thought he was acting different, but everybody took that as PTSD from losing his ship. And that's when it will have happened. All the subtle, excellent nuances that Jason Isaacs has been putting into the character as a kind of, really subtle, this is a slightly broken man. Worthless now. He was just faking it because he's from the Mirror Universe and he's an asshole. So this episode is entirely set up. Nothing important happens here beyond setting up stuff that's going to happen in the next few episodes. And it continues to push the envelope of acceptability in ways that just annoy me. So the Kelpian cannibalism, which again needs a new word because it's not technically cannibalism, but you know what I mean. The unnecessarily graphic death of that poor schmuck. And of course the big twist reveal that we figured out a while ago but thought they wouldn't actually be stupid enough to do. So, you know how I called it that Lorca was not making it through to the end of the season? Lorca is not making it through to the end of the season, so we're going to end up with a new captain of the Discovery next season. Probably either Michael or Saru. Again, part of the problem is at this point, of the main cast of the show, we have a mutineer, a spy, a guy from a parallel universe who's probably evil and here for deeply dubious moral reasons. So at least two of those have logically got to be gone. By the beginning of the next season. So Saru, Tilly, and Stamets, whose brain is kind of messed up, are basically the only main characters who it makes any logical sense for them to actually be around next season. And the thing is, I remember reading a while back that their intention with Discovery was to make it kind of an anthology show where each season would follow a completely different story and a completely different ship and a completely different crew. Or maybe that they'd be jumping around the timeline with in the same way that there have been many ships named Enterprise. Every season of Discovery would follow the Discovery, but every season would be a completely different crew on board a completely different Discovery in different periods of the timeline. And given everything they've been building up, that could well be where they're going. Something's going to happen at the end of this season, and then they're going to go somewhere completely different for season 2, which is a pity because the cast they've assembled is fabulous, and they're wasting them. So that's pretty much my thoughts on episode 12 of Discovery, and that's all I've got for the time being. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in episode 13.